4. The veterans of the Persian Gulf, Iraq, and Afghanistan. And finally, the Brown County Honor Guard.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Seated. You may be seated. At this time, we would like to pay special recognition To any widows of veterans who have joined us today, please stand if you are a widow of a veteran so that we can honor you and you can be recognized. Thank you for your service. I'd also like to recognize some of our visitors and honored guests who are joining us today. I'd like to introduce two of our great friends at the Indiana State House. Would you please welcome our Indiana State Senator, Senator Eric Cook, and our Indiana State Representative, Representative Chris May. I'd like to introduce today's keynote speaker, an esteemed leader from the NSWC Crane, Lieutenant Commander Michael D. Lemons. We are also grateful to be joined by our Brown County School Board members, our Board President Steve Miller, Vice President Marlene Barnett, Secretary Carol Bowden, and members Vicki Harden and Stephanie Kreitzer. Thank you for being with us today. It is certainly appropriate that we are gathered in the Larry C. Banks Memorial Gymnasium today. Larry C. Banks is one of Brown County's great heroes, and while we certainly wish that he was joining us here today, I am confident that he is here in spirit. For those in attendance who may not know the name, Larry C. Banks was born and raised in Brown County, attended Brown County High School, and made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation on November 7th, 1967, during his service in Vietnam. 52 years ago, Brown County earned a hero, and several of those gathered here today lost a dear friend. The Brown County High School History Club created a documentary about Larry C. Banks, and we would like to take a moment to share that documentary with you all today. Please enjoy.
Brown County High School's Larry C. Banks Memorial Gymnasium plays a larger role in our community than just being a gym. It's a place where high-stakes basketball games are played and won, where volleyball players challenge each other, where we cheer, where we compete, where we get pumped for big games, and where we learn valuable lessons from others. This is a place where students embark on the next stage of their life, and where we celebrate those who have sacrificed so much for our freedoms. All of these important and memorable moments took place and will continue to take place in the Larry C. Banks Memorial Gymnasium. But who was Larry C. Banks? Larry was born on September 21st, 1948 in Brown County, Indiana. He grew up doing the things that kids in Brown County today do, enjoying sports like baseball, as well as hunting and fishing as a teenager. He spent his entire education in Brown County schools and was a member of the first graduating class from Brown County High School in 1966. While in school, he was known as a type of person with whom everyone could get along. He was friendly and a happy kid that everyone liked, including the ladies who found him to be quite handsome. His sister Sandy Summers described him as being a big kidder and someone who made everyone feel important no matter who you were. His uplifting spirit put others at ease. His favorite classes were woodshop and metal shop, where he helped many other students hone their craft and even lobbied the principal to allow girls to enroll in the courses, as they weren't allowed during this time. A mechanically minded student, Larry had a natural ability to maintain and rebuild automobiles, which he enjoyed doing with his father, who played a major influence in his life. The Vietnam conflict was an ongoing war taking place 8,566 miles from Brown County, Indiana, on the other side of the world. Larry believed strongly in the ideals of the United States and was a true patriot, which is why he did not hesitate to join the effort when it came time for the United States to enter this conflict. Larry's father volunteered in World War II and was enlisted in the 26th Infantry, known as the Blue Spaders, inspiring Larry to volunteer in the same division in the conflict of his generation. Larry left for Vietnam the day before his 19th birthday. After only 28 days in Vietnam, Larry was killed in an ambush while on patrol in a rubber tree plantation that was located northwest of Saigon. During this patrol, Private First Class Banks was with a machine gunner and an assistant machine gunner carrying extra ammunition. When the machine gunner was taken out, Larry and a fellow soldier, John Young, did not hesitate to act. With no regard for their personal safety, they stayed out in the open and picked up the gun, continuing to fire at the enemy, allowing their fellow squad members to escape, and melting the barrel out of the gun before being overrun. Both men were killed during this battle and were posthumously awarded the Bronze Star for Valor for their efforts. As Larry's award of the Bronze Star Medal statement reads, his bold initiative and dauntless courage significantly contributed to the withdrawal of the other members of his squad. First Class Banks' outstanding display of aggressiveness, devotion to duty, and personal bravery is in keeping with the finest traditions of the military service and reflects great credit upon himself. Although Larry's service was cut short, the war continued until 1973 when American troops were withdrawn. Larry was the only soldier from Brown County to perish in the conflict. In 1994, Larry's high school classmates Michael O'Hara, Gus Schroeder, George Miller, and Lee Maggard submitted a proposal with the support of the community to name the gymnasium in Larry's honor. The gym was dedicated on Veterans Day of the same year. In another effort to memorialize Larry and other Brown County veterans, it was decided that every year the flags in Nashville will be lowered to half-mast from November 7th until November 11th, each day commemorating one of the 5 major conflicts of the 20th century. Larry C. Banks' legacy extends not only to the gymnasium at Brown County High School, but also to the Larry C. Banks Scholarship Fund. The scholarship funds Brown County graduates going into vocational training, as that is likely what Larry would have done. Students who receive the scholarship pursue careers as dental hygienists, veterinary assistants, diesel mechanics, and more. To this day, a little more than $20,000 has been awarded to over 17 individuals. 50 years ago, Larry Banks bravely paid the ultimate sacrifice. Larry was not a celebrity, he wasn't anyone famous, he was just a boy from Brown County. Yet he died defending our country and upholding the beliefs of democracy and patriotism. Today, his memory lives on every day as students enter Brown County High School's gymnasium. It will continue to live on long after current students graduate, pursue their dreams, and fulfill their life goals. As long as the Larry C. Banks Memorial Gymnasium stands, so too will Larry's legacy, because as someone once said, no one is ever really dead until they are forgotten.
Would you please join me in sharing in a moment of silence to pay our respects to Larry C. Banks? Thank you. And how about a round of applause for that beautiful documentary? Senator Eric Cook is a great friend to Brown County schools specifically and Brown County as a whole. We have sincerely appreciated his advocacy on behalf of our veterans and his support for education at the State House. We are so grateful to have him join us today and offer remarks of encouragement to those in attendance. Will you join me in welcoming Senator Eric Cook?
Well, thank you, Dr. Hammock, and it's an honor to be with you again this morning. Today, we pause together as a nation in gatherings large and small to celebrate the service of all U.S. military men and women who have protected our freedom in peace and in war. It's a day we honor all of those, both living and deceased, who served the United States from our founding to the present time. Each took an oath of enlistment, traditionally given in front of our flag. They raised their right hand and swore 2, support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, to obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over them according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. From that oath, you can see that what is defended is not a person, but the Constitution. Discipline and accepting orders are sworn to, and should any dispute arise, the Uniform Code of Military Justice will be faced. This is no simple contract, nor should it be, but it's what binds together those who have taken it from generation to generation. Technically, its obligation ends when military service ends, but to the veterans I know, it's lifelong. Recently, I had the opportunity to visit Pearl Harbor. There, the USS Arizona and over 1,000 of her crew lie entombed, submerged to this day. After taking that short ferry trip out to pay respects, I noticed on shore a single statue, not of an admiral, general, or president, but of a young sailor with an inscription below. And knowing that I would be with you here today, I copied it down to share with you. It's called The Lone Sailor. And it reads, "The lone sailor represents the men and women who have served, are serving, or will serve in the Navy. He's called the lone sailor, yet he's hardly ever alone. He's about 25 years old, a senior second-class petty officer who is fast becoming a seagoing veteran. He has done it all, filed weapons in war, provided humanitarian assistance in faraway lands, been attacked by the enemy and defended our freedom. He has made liberty calls in great cities and tiny villages where he was a tourist, ambassador, adventurer, friend, and missionary to those less fortunate and representative of our way of life. His shipmates remember him with pride and look up to him with respect." I thought of those words this morning before the program as we gathered in the auxiliary gym for coffee with the veterans we honor here today. Each one, and veterans everywhere, like the lone sailor, took the oath and in their own time and place served the nation, like those who had come before, those now serving, and those yet to come. We thank them and those serving in the Guard and Reserves, and we shall never forget those represented by the empty chair, our POWs and MIAs. To the senior enlisting, thank you for the commitment you are about to make. You have many options, and the fact that you have chosen military service says good things about you. It's fitting that those who have gone before are sitting behind you this morning because they will always have your back. Soon, we will hear the anthems of each of the 5 branches of service, songs which bind generations of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardmen. Today, we honor every man and woman who has ever worn the uniform of our nation. We must also remember that honoring those who have served isn't just about what we say here today. It's about how we honor our veterans every day of the year and remaining committed to supporting them and their families in every way we possibly can. It's been my great honor to be with you here today. God bless our veterans, and God bless America. We
have really enjoyed working with and getting to know our state representative, Chris May. From being seriously engaged in workforce development and advocacy for veterans across our region, Representative May has proven to be a great friend to Brown County. Representative May has prepared a few remarks of encouragement for us this morning, and I would like to turn the podium over to him at this time. Welcome, Representative May.
Thank you, Dr. Hammock. Appreciate the introduction and definitely appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to join you today for this very special ceremony honoring our service members and the sacrifices they have made to defend our country. Truly appreciate the invitation, the opportunity to personally say thank you to these extraordinary men and women. Last year, I had the privilege of participating in the annual U.S. Army War College National Security Seminar in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. My good friend, Colonel Kobe Short, was attending the War College at the time and nominated me for the opportunity. And Kobe and I were classmates, high school classmates. At this 4-day seminar, we examined current national security issues and exchanged ideas. The program helped me acquire a greater understanding of what our defense community and its dedicated men and women do on a regular basis to protect our freedoms that we enjoy. I'm so very proud of Kobe and what he has done for our country, and it goes without saying that he's made individually huge sacrifices and demonstrated honor and courage to serve and protect this nation. But what I find that goes often overlooked is a tremendous sacrifice made by his family, starting with his wife and children. And these are the sacrifices that were made by you and our honored guests and their families today just as well. My appreciation for our country's servicemen and women and their families is truly indescribable. You've inspired me with your love of country, and I applaud you for the sacrificing of your time and talents to serve the greater good. As a member of Indiana's General Assembly, I've had the opportunity to write and vote on legislation affecting all Hoosiers as we continue to work to make our state a better place to live. And military veterans are essential to the social and workforce fabric in our communities. Most recently, the Indiana House of Representatives enacted a new law phasing in the 100% income tax exemption for military retirement pensions. By lowering their tax burden, we hope that veterans will live here and bring their discipline and valuable skill set. Thanks to the law allowing veterans and surviving spouses to also indicate their status on state IDs, driver's license, and permit applications, the state can now use this information to also contact them about helpful resources. Another law that I co-authored offers a similar way to recognize our country's heroes to ensure Indiana disabled Hoosier veterans' license plates are updated to include the insignia of the veterans' branch of service. And conveniently, the fees for these plates help fund the veteran services just as well. So much of this legislation we draft in the Indiana General Assembly is inspired by the concerns and the feedback we receive from our constituents, including our veterans and the groups supporting our servicemen and women. We know there is always more that can be done and more that we can do to support active members and veterans. So please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Senator Cook as we look for new ideas and new laws that can make life better for our military community. You can find us online at the IndianaHouseRepublicans.com webpage. We will continue to work on behalf of our veterans because it's the least we can do for all that you have done for us. And I thank you again for your service to our community and our country, and I wish you a very blessed Veterans Day.
Next, I would like to welcome two members of our local VFW who will introduce the finalists and winners of the Voice of Democracy and Patriots Pen Essay Contests. After the awards are given, the winner of the Voice of Democracy contest will read her essay. Would you please join me in welcoming our treasured members of our VFW, Mr. Burden and Mr. Reitzman.
Boy, it seems like this comes around a lot faster every year. But we had some excellent Patriots Pen and Voice of Democracy winners and essays this year. They were real close. So as I called out your name, will you please come down? I have a certificate for you, as well as a medal. So for third place, and even though I say they're third place, second place, and first place, they're all winners. They were excellent. Each one of them will be entered into our district essay contest. From there, they go to the state. Winners from there goes to the national. So, third place, Patriots Pen, Leslie Austin. She'll be receiving a certificate and a bronze medal. Second place goes to Michael A. Grayson. First place, and I'd like to be in their dinner meeting tonight because this is going to be a good one, probably. First place goes to Clayton Austin. Right after the program, if I can get all the winners to come back down here where we can get a picture so we can send your essays into the district. So please come back down just as soon as the program's over. Voice of Democracy. Third place goes Tristan D. Shields. She receives certificate, bronze medal, and a check. Second place, receiving a certificate, a silver medal, and also a check, is Emila Koster. And our big one. Last year she placed third place in the essay contest. This year she placed first year. Chloe Robinson. She will now read her essay.
Hi, thank you. I'd like to thank our local VFW for giving me this opportunity. It's 7 in the evening in a small town called Frankfort, Indiana. I sit with my grandfather, Philip Stoops, and the rest of my family as we wait in anticipation for our annual Thanksgiving dinner to commence. My sister, as usual, is pawning through the stash of our family's centuries-old photos and diaries, admiring relatives so distant I can hardly recall their names. She pulls out an unfamiliar map from a well-weathered box, unfolding it with great intrigue. "Look," she says proudly, inspecting her new discovery, "I found a map of Seoul." My grandpa laughs, taking the map from her curious hands, scanning it over with heavy eyes. "Seoul," he corrects her. "I was stationed in South Korea after the war." I knew my grandfather was a veteran. My mother had shown me photos of him in uniform, and he'd always emphasized the importance of America's military history to me and my sister. He had given us books upon books chronicling the history of the world wars, showing us planes and boats and weapons I seldom had names for. My grandfather has always been a true patriot of the United States, and his stories of military service, the sacrifices he and thousands of other men and women have made for this country, can inspire faith for the future and even the most pessimistic citizens. "What makes America great," my grandfather would say, "is its history. That is, a history of triumphs, of failures, a history of resistance, of mistakes and bravery. America in itself cannot be viewed as only one thing, as either perfect or flawed. The United States is a product of all its achievements and disasters, each experience opening a new era for improvement. The U.S. has presided over incredible successes, everything from defeating the tyranny of a deplorable king to maintaining military power that rivals those in biblical tales. We have withstood a dozen wars, traveled to the moon, introduced revolutionary ideas to our government, and provided freedom for nearly 545 million citizens across 2 centuries. But success is not the result of perfect circumstances. Much of America's freedom is the product of years, even decades worth of struggles. To achieve true equality, as promised for all citizens in the Constitution, the United States has had to destroy the institution of slavery, repeal laws infringing on the rights of minorities, and combat prejudice held in the hearts of many Americans. We have arguably abused our advanced technology, killing 225,000 people in a span of 4 days during the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We have overstepped our boundaries, involving ourselves in international matters only to worsen political strife. How then, one might wonder, can my grandfather embody such pride in this country when he is well aware of its terrible mistakes? How can a nation born from violence, slavery, and injustice ever redeem itself to the title of great? It is because for each of these tragedies, America has proven its resilience. Throughout the history of the United States, we have forged alliances among ourselves and our opponents, learning from our mistakes to ensure that they do not occur again. America is not only a melting pot of cultures, languages, and people, it is a melting pot of its experiences that have shaped the way the world views this nation. To be great, America must not be perfect, as no nation is capable of being so, but rather it should embrace its imperfections and use them to catapult the country into a future of prosperity, where mistakes are openly embraced as opportunities for improvement. My grandpa, like so many others, has pride in his country not only for its greatness, but for its failures. What makes America great is its history, a history with successes and downfalls that have molded the country into the incredible world power it is today. When my grandfather looks back on that old map of Seoul, he sees his contribution to America's legacy. He reminds us that an individual's experiences can be mightier than any war, stronger than any tyrant, and more significant than any amount of injustice. The history of a nation is a combination of every citizen's experience, and there is no better indicator to America's greatness than the past it has overcome. Thank you.
every game divine, divine. Do do.
Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, and dimmed by human tears.
America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood. From sea to shining sea, America, America.
God shed His grace on thee.
Good morning. I am Matthew Stark, and I'm principal here at Brown County High School. The next section of our program is to honor those high school students who have either made a full commitment or who are considering a commitment to the United States military service. First, who has taken the oath already, I would ask Keaton Root to stand and be recognized. Keaton has made a commitment to the United States Army. We have two students in our Seaman Sea Cadet program, Toby Smith and Brian Smith. If you would also step out to be recognized. And finally, Aaron Harden, Matthew Minna, Sam Perkins, and Haley Hash, if you would stand, who are considering military service at this time. As Senator Cook has said, it is fitting that you stand behind them as of our recent grads or our soon-to-be grads as they choose to do military service to continue this long tradition of Brown County. Thank you again, and thank you to our veterans.
Just a few months ago, on August the 15th, 2019, our nation suffered a great loss. Losing active members of our military is always devastating. However, August 15th was a day that our community will not soon forget. Kelly Bruner is our principal of Helmsburg Elementary School, and she and I would like to ask the family of Staff Sergeant Andrew Michael St. John to come to the front so we can take a moment to honor and celebrate the life and service of this American hero.
Staff Sergeant Andrew St. John and his beautiful wife, who is with us today, and their children, Max and Audrey, Ashton Withers Kakavicos, were both elementary students at Helmsburg Elementary School. Staff Sergeant St. John ultimately graduated from Martinsville High School in 2009 when he made the selfless decision to enlist in the United States Army, where he's a member of the Charlie Company 1st 325 82nd Airborne Infantry Division, and later transitioned into the Army National Guard, where he served for the last 10 years. During his service, he served in the Haiti humanitarian effort, the war in Afghanistan, and the Iraq War. Most recently, he served as the Observed Controller Trainer, training fellow service members in an operation named Wolf. His life was tragically lost on August 15th during a military training accident in Fort Hood, Texas. We would like to present his beautiful wife, Ashton, with a plaque that will also forever be hung in the halls of Helmsburg Elementary School. We hope that this small token of our sincere sympathy and celebration of the hero who was your husband will afford you with the knowledge that your home loves you, honors you, and is always here for you. Friends, will you help me in honoring this great American hero?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ashton. I graduated here, actually. I grew up here my whole life, but just FYI, yeah, this is a hard spot to be in, but I'll tell you, going forward, life is short, guys. Life is short, so hug everybody, love everybody, use kind words, right, Max? Kind words, and just continue to love others, okay? Because you don't never know when their time is or whatever. So just if you can take that from this, that would be great.
I'd like to transition a little bit here. One of our own, Mr. Jerry Bell, would like to take a few moments to talk about the Indy Honor Flight. Mr. Bell, would you come forward, please?
I'd like to take this moment just to thank everybody from Brown County, all the students, and everyone that had anything to do with the honor flight. I was on the honor flight October 26th, and when we left D.C. and headed back, they give us a large envelope and said it was our mail call. We started opening those envelopes, and it was all letters of appreciation from all the students in Brown County and all over Indiana. We had letters from the elementary, the middle school, and high school, and from the elderly from around the county. But I want to just take this time to thank Brown County's got some excellent kids. And that reflects back on the teachers of Brown County. And they're doing a great job on raising our kids. And I just want to thank all of you. And it was a great honor flight. And I just want to put you all in our hearts. Thank you.
Next up, we have one of our favorite parts of our program. Our Brown County High School Wind Ensemble will play, and the choirs from Brown County Junior High School and Brown County High School will sing The Pride of America. Veterans, when you hear the song that represents your military branch, we invite you to stand as we celebrate your branch of service.
The United States Army.
Over hill, over dale, we will hit the dusty trail as the caissons go rolling along. In and out, hear them shout, counter march around about as the caissons go rolling along. Then it's high, high, in the field artillery, shout out your numbers loud and strong. For wherever you go, you will always know that the caissons go rolling along.
The United States Marine Corps.
From the walls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for rights and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines.
The United States Navy.
Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day, 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 day. Send Navy out to sea, through swirling foam, until we meet once more. Is wishing you a happy voyage home.
The United States Coast Guard.
We're always ready for the call. We place our trust in Thee. Through surf and storm and howling gale, I shall our purpose be. Semper Paratus is our guide, our fame and glory too. To fight, to save, to fight and die, I Coast Guard, we are for you.
The United States Air Force.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, singing to meet our thunder, and the boys give it a gun. Down the dives, cluster a flame from under, all but one terrible course. We live in pain, rule out in flame, ain't nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
I'd just like to take a moment to thank our outstanding musicians who are assisting with our program today. We sincerely appreciate our Brown County High School bands, led by their director, Mr. Matthew Finley, as well as our Brown County Junior High School choir, led by Mr. Daniel Ling, and our high school choir, led by Ms. Christy Billings. Will you join me in thanking these talented students and their directors? Mrs. Emily Llewellyn is one of our educators in the Social Studies Department at Brown County High School. Ms. Llewellyn was selected as one of only 18 educators from across America selected to participate in Memorializing the Fallen, a teacher professional development program from the National History Day organization. Throughout the Memorializing the Fallen program, Mrs. Llewellyn attended virtual lectures, participated in discussions, and researched a service member who never returned home. Mrs. Llewellyn chose service member Private Ray Griffin of Brown County, Indiana. Griffin was a member of the 16th Infantry Regiment, 1st Division of the United States Army. We have asked Ms. Llewellyn to share a little bit more about her experience, and she will also tell us about the way in which she gave great honor to another boy from Brown County, Private Ray Griffin. Would you join me in welcoming Mrs. Emily Llewellyn?
Good morning. As Dr. Hammock stated, my name is Emily Llewellyn, and I'm a teacher here at Brown County High School. This past summer, I had the opportunity of a lifetime, which is what I'm here to share with you all. As many of you know, National History Day is a fantastic program for history students to practice their historical research skills with the potential to compete on the national stage in Washington, D.C. every summer. But National History Day also provides countless opportunities for teachers. Last December, I was lucky enough to be selected as one of 18 teachers from across the United States to participate in one of their programs in collaboration with the World War I Centennial Commission and the Pritzker Military Library and Museum. This program, called Memorializing the Fallen, was focused on studying World War I and its impact here in America as well as in Europe. World War I is often seen as simply being a stepping stone to World War II. This program strove to highlight the importance of this war and the soldiers who fought in it. Beginning in January, I became a student again, reading books and articles about World War I, as well as completing online discussions with other teachers and participating in webinars with a professor from George Mason University and a curator from the Smithsonian Portrait Gallery. We learned about the humanity of the war, about the tragedy inflicted on people both far and wide, and about the cataclysmic impact this war had on the world. All of this culminated in a trip to France and Belgium in June, where we walked in the footsteps of the men and women of World War I. Perhaps the greatest learning experience of all was getting to see the place where this war was fought. On our 10-day trip, we went to countless sites, seeing the battlefields of Verdun, the Somme, and Bella Wood. We walked in the trenches that are still there today, experiencing what it might have been like for the men fighting. We saw the physical impact this war had on the landscape. To this day, there are still crater holes from artillery shells that exploded over 100 years ago. To a passerby, they look like rolling hills that have always been there. But imagine the intensity of the war, to have significantly altered the earth to the point that 100 years later, we can still see the impact. We saw remnants of the war scattered everywhere, like pieces of exploded shells littered across the ground, browned from time and exposure to chemical warfare, and signs warning of the live ordnance that still exists in the countryside. We visited multiple museums, including the underground caves that were used by the Germans, where our French tour guide exclaimed his gratitude for American soldiers in World War I, because he firmly believed without them, he wouldn't have been standing there in 2019. And lastly, we visited over 15 different cemeteries. Some of these were British and French, where flowering bushes bloomed next to the graves of the fallen, and personalized messages from the soldiers' family were engraved on their headstones. One cemetery was German, where the headstones were crooked, the weeds took over the graves, and there were 4 men buried under one cross or Star of David. The majority, however, were American cemeteries, with meticulous landscapes, neatly ordered rows of white marble headstones, and beautiful architecture devoted to remembering the fallen in their final resting place. The main purpose of this program was for us to memorialize the fallen. We were told to select a soldier from our state to research and to then deliver a eulogy for at their graveside in France. I selected Private Ray Griffin from Brown County. Private Griffin was, like many before and after him, just a boy from Brown County who chose to fight and inevitably die for his country. Born in 1895, Griffin was the son of a farmer and lived near Yellowwood Lake with his parents and 6 siblings. He attended the Jackson Creek one-room schoolhouse, where he excelled the most in his scientific temperance and physiology courses. Griffin was 16 years old in the 8th grade and did not continue on to high school. Instead, he found a career as a barber. Griffin enlisted in the Army 1 month after America declared war on Germany in 1917. He was a part of the Army's newly created 1st Division, serving in Company I of the 3rd Battalion and the 16th Infantry Regiment. His was the first American division to step foot in war-torn France in June of 1917. After 6 months of additional training in the French countryside, Griffin left for the front. Before his death, he experienced combat a number of times, gaining useful experience in trench warfare as well as frontal assaults. Unfortunately, the experience he gained made no difference when on July 19, 1918, during the Battle of Soissons, he was killed. After his death, like other mothers of the fallen, Griffin's mother was invited to visit his grave in France as a Gold Star mother, but she had to decline because of her poor health. She stated, "God only knows how much I want to go, but can't." She declined again in 1933, as Griffin's father was blind and in poor health. She died in 1942, never having visited her son's final resting place. To my knowledge, I am the first person who intentionally visited Griffin's grave. Griffin's memory never left his mother, however. While overseas, Griffin made a pact with his friend, Walter Howard, that if one of them failed to return home, the other would become a surrogate son to the mother of the fallen. Howard remained true to this pact, traveling to visit Griffin's mother twice a year from his home in Oklahoma and later from West Lafayette, Indiana. He even sent her flowers on Mother's Day, making sure that while Griffin could not be there, he would never be forgotten. Griffin was awarded the Citation Star for his service. This medal was created as a way to honor the bravery of the soldiers in World War I. Many soldiers were dissatisfied with the medal, however, as it was only about 5/8 of an inch big, so it's pretty small, and it seemed insignificant to them, given all they had been through. The Army then changed the medal to the Silver Star, which includes a Citation Star in its center. As such, any soldier who received the Citation Star could convert theirs to a Silver Star. Griffin never had the chance to do this, nor did his family. Instead, over 100 years later, I, with great assistance from Stephen Clay, the president of the 16th Infantry Association, worked on converting his medal for him. It was a challenge to learn about Private Griffin since he was never married and he had no children. There was no family left who knew his story. Instead, I had to pull at every possible thread, and there were not that many. I researched on Ancestry, I went to the Brown County History Center and scoured the archives. I got files from the National Archives. I reached out to the 16th Infantry Association and the 1st Division Museum in Illinois. I read countless books and articles, all so I could simply learn about this man and the days leading to his untimely death. In the end, I learned so much about Griffin that I felt like I knew him personally, which made my eulogy of him so much more special. I would like to share my eulogy with you now so you can get to know a little bit more about Ray Griffin. In the quiet, sleepy countryside of southern Indiana lies the picturesque community of Brown County, full of rolling hills and tiny villages that seem to be removed from the rest of the world. This serene landscape, however, does not protect people from the tragedies in life and war. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, Brown County sent 301 men to fight. Of those, 12 perished. Private Ray Griffin was one of those men. Born Aaron Ray Griffin on February 24, 1895, Griffin was the 5th oldest child of Sarah Pogg and Adam Griffin. As a young boy, Griffin attended the one-room schoolhouse in their community alongside his younger siblings, Merle and Frida. Griffin was 16 in the 8th grade and chose not to continue his education into high school. Instead, he found work as a barber. Griffin enlisted in the Army on May 9, 1917. He may have done this because of his family's military history. His great-great-grandfather served during the Revolutionary War, and his uncle volunteered to fight and suffered injuries in the Civil War. He may have done this out of a sense of patriotism and duty, or simply to avoid the draft. Regardless of his reasons, he enlisted in the Army's 16th Infantry Regiment and was assigned to Company I of the 3rd Battalion. Shortly afterwards, the 16th Infantry Regiment became part of the newly created 1st Division. On June 14, 1917, Griffin set sail on the USS Havana, arriving in France 2 weeks later. There, he began his intense training. For the next 6 months, Griffin learned everything from rifle instruction to personal hygiene. He and other soldiers spent time mastering the operation of machine guns, grenades, and Stokes mortars, while also conducting road marches with full packs. In October, Griffin became ill and had to spend 3 weeks in the hospital. Shortly after he returned to camp, the 16th Infantry Regiment packed up and marched through harsh winter conditions to the front for their first experience in combat. Griffin experienced combat a number of times before his death, most notably during the spring of 1918 in Cantigny, where his regiment, after successfully driving the Germans out of the village and off the high ground, held the front line for 72 days. 72 days in the trenches, without the opportunity to bathe, delouse, or change clothes, while the Germans continued to test the American defenses with artillery and gas attacks. I can only imagine the strength Griffin and his fellow soldiers must have possessed to endure such difficult conditions. After his experience in the trenches, Griffin and the rest of his division moved on to fight in the Battle of Soissons in July 1988. The soldiers' resolve to win was observed by the regimental chaplain, who wrote, "Dazed with weariness from their long hike, they pushed their way over barbed wire entanglements, past plunging artillery horses and rumbling tanks which blocked their passage, through veritable seas of mud, on and ever on through the night. Those weary bodies would straighten, the men would hitch their packs a little higher, grab their rifles a little tighter, and plunge ahead. Nothing but death would or could stop them." This fierce determination led the men to success in the battle. Tragically, Griffin would not see that victory, as 2 days into the battle an artillery shell exploded and shattered his skull. He was buried on the field of honor by his fellow soldiers. One of them, Sergeant Walter Howard, wrote that Griffin was a gallant soldier who was highly esteemed by his comrades. Ray, because of your noble actions during the battle where you lost your life, you were posthumously awarded the Citation Star for gallantry in action and especially meritorious service. This medal is the precursor to the Silver Star, the third highest personal decoration for valor in combat. Family members of veterans can convert Citation Stars to Silver Stars. Unfortunately, you really have no family left to do this. Your parents and siblings have all passed, and you were never married and had no children. While you and I are not actually related, you have become my family. So I decided to do what no one else can and convert your medal. So today I am proud to present you with your Silver Star. Thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. You will never be forgotten. Thank you all very much. Thank you. This process was incredibly rewarding. It's one thing to learn about history from books, but it's quite another to actually witness it firsthand. And the experience of researching Griffin's life and traveling to his grave is one that I will never forget. He truly is part of my family now. National History Day has opened many, many doors for me by providing me with valuable experiences and opportunities. And one of them is actually happening later this week. I was contacted by National History Day about a month ago and offered a spot on another trip, like my one this summer, except with a focus on World War II. And this trip is a little different, however, as I get to share it with a student. So on Wednesday of this week, so like 2 days from today, Chloe Robinson, a 4-time state champion of National History Day, and I are on our way to the Netherlands. And so we will be spending, thank you. We'll be there for about 5 days. Our soldier this time is Private Claude Doty of Johnson County, because we had to focus on the Netherlands American Cemetery, and there are no Brown County soldiers that are buried there. Chloe and I have been researching Private Doty's life extensively over the past 4 weeks, and she will be delivering a eulogy for him this upcoming Saturday at his grave, and we will return on Sunday. We're both incredibly excited, and we really appreciate the support of Brown County and all of our veterans in your service. So thank you very much.
Pretty special lady. So every year we are honored to be joined by a veteran who has served our country and is willing to share with us some of his or her testimony. Today we will be hearing from our keynote speaker, the Executive Officer and Weapons Program Manager of NSWC Crane, Lieutenant Commander Michael D. Lemons. Brown County has developed a very special relationship with the NSWC Crane Base, as we have realized through our work with the Regional Opportunity Initiatives that a career in defense of our nation is possible, and with thanks to the new interstate, only 60 minutes from downtown Nashville to the west gate of Crane. Lieutenant Commander Michael D. Lemons enlisted in the U.S. Navy on July 31st, 1996 from Jonesboro, Arkansas. He attended basic training at the Recruit Training Center in Great Lakes, Illinois. He served on 2 destroyers, the USS Elliott DD-967 and the USS Kearney DDG-64, during his enlisted years, to which he was promoted to Chief Petty Officer. His duty as Chief Fire Controlman was maintenance and operation of the ship's gunnery stations, including all 50 caliber 7.62 machine guns and the main 5-inch gun. In November 2008, he was selected to the Limited Duty Officer Program, where he received his commission as an ensign. As a naval officer, his first ship tour was USS John C. Stennis CVN 74, stationed out of Bremerton, Washington. During his career as an officer, he realized his dream and became the weapons officer for Special Boat Team 22, directly supporting Special Forces teams including Army Special Forces, Marines, and the U.S. Navy SEALs. In his 22 years of service, he has completed 8 deployments, 6 to the Middle East, 1 in South America, and 1 in the Mediterranean. His personal awards include 6 Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medals, 4 Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medals, and the Global War on Terror Expeditionary Medal. He currently serves as the Executive Officer and Deputy Division Manager for Small Arms Division at the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Crane. He's married to the former Miss Holly Arizi and has 3 children. As an aside, I understand that Lieutenant Commander Lemons is quite the deer hunter and even cut a hunting trip short so he could join us here today. So on behalf of the deer that surely was yours today, Lieutenant Commander Lemons, we are honored to have you with us today. Would you please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Commander Lemons?
Wow, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here today. My wife thanks you for cutting my deer hunting short. I'm going to ask for your attention for the next 10 minutes. I don't write things down. I don't have a speech. I speak directly from the heart. So I ask that you give me your next 10 minutes. You'd rather spend it with me than in class, I'm sure. I'm going to start by thanking my fellow veterans. I know it feels odd sitting there. I'm sure it still does. I retire next year, and most of us don't feel like we did anything special. We just did our job. Yet high schools around the country today are gathering you in the center and then recognizing your service. I'm going to literally throw this. And recognizing your service. And it's awesome that you feel humble doing it. I love you. I love that I served with you. For the folks out here, you might not, I'm very loud, by the way. You might not understand, it's very odd for us to tell each other that we love each other because that's not how veterans speak to each other. Do you know how a veteran tells another veteran that they love them? They make fun of them. They find their weakness and you pick at it till no end. If you could have been in the back room from 8:30 to 9:30, it was 1 hour of dad jokes. All against each other. But that's how we spread our love for each other, and that's how we know we fit in together. So, again, like I said, I'm very loud. I'm going to tell you a personal story of mine. And it can get loud as I get eccentric. So for some of you pacemakers here, hold on to those, okay? For some of my brothers here. See, I got to make fun of them so they know that I love them. We've got everywhere from the Gulf War with me to World War II. We have some World War II vets. Is that correct? That's correct. World War II? World War II? Okay, so we've got a couple World War II vets. If you get the chance today, you need to shake these men's hand. The opportunity is being lost. His brothers in arms slowly disappear every year. So it's the rare opportunity to get to thank them for their service. But I thank all of you for your service. But I'm going to talk, now that I've thanked you, I'm going to talk to you all about my favorite veteran group. And then at the end, I'm going to tie it into this school. So do we have a history teacher in the crowd? Where? All right, so don't hold me account. I don't like people standing behind me either. So, but look, just don't hold me accountable, because this is the story that was told to me, and it felt near and dear to my heart, and it raises my spirits. I tell it twice a week as I swear new people into government service, because it's important that I think you need to hear it. So, what I need you to do is go back in time with me. I need you're all high school students here, some elementary or junior high student school here. I need you to go back in time and use that imagination, because right now you still have that wonderful imagination, and I want you to go to a place with me. Okay? I remember being in high school, going through history class, and I remember learning about World War II, and I remember learning about the Civil War. And everything else and of course I'm older, but everything else in the history books seemed to just be a couple pages, and I'm sure that's not true, but it just felt that way. But I remember the story of the War of 1812, and I slightly remember just bits and pieces. It wasn't until I was more senior in the Navy that I learned the importance of that war and how it had an effect on us and what it means for this red, white, and blue flag hanging behind me right now. So let's go to the War of 1812 and talk about some of my favorite veterans. So the War of 1812 was basically our second Revolutionary War. We all know the Revolutionary War, right? We celebrate it July 4th, 1776. We declared our independence, and we got into a war with Britain, the great mother country of the world. And it was a war that it was going to be impossible to win. So when they came to fight us, they had to come from Britain to the United States or to America, and they were going to fight us, and they brought the bare necessities. We're just 13 colonies. It's an easy kill. We'll go in, we'll thump them, we'll go visit some islands, and we'll go back. Well, that didn't work out very well for them, you see. And we won, and we declared our independence, and we became our own country, and we started to grow. Well, the War of 1812, Britain was mad. They wanted this piece of land. They wanted this country. So this time they came in full force, and they came with a vengeance. And to tell you the truth, that they were winning. They were winning this war. They were marching from the north to the south. They were burning our Capitol, our White House, our buildings, our government. They were destroying our country. They were on their way from the oceans with their ships, bombing our country. They were winning this war. We needed a turning point. We needed something to drive us. This is the story of my favorite veterans. Because our last stronghold was Baltimore, Fort McHenry. And it was someone's brilliant idea, as the war had progressed, that the British had a lot of our prisoners out to sea. They had a lot of American soldiers out to sea, and we needed them back. We had some very smart people, and they were kept in prisons at sea. And we had a lot of British officers as prisoners in our shore commands on land in America. And someone came up with a bright idea. Hey, maybe we should do a swap. Maybe we should talk to the British and make a swap. Because we need our men back. I'm sure they need theirs. So they sent a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. Does that ring a bell? He was an attorney general at the time, and he was going to go negotiate a fair trade. So he goes out, and I hope you're still there with me in your imagination, that he goes out and he doesn't have 60 Evinrude on the back of this thing. He's paddling. And he makes it out to the ship, and he climbs aboard the ship, and he's talking to the admiral with the big hat. Admiral, we should make a plan. We should be able to work out a deal. We're both civilized people. I need my men, you need yours. Let's make a trade. And after hours of deliberation and discussion, they agreed. Let's trade. So they sent men ashore, and they worked out the trade. And picture this. Go down below decks with me with my favorite veterans in the world, and that's what this story's about. He goes down below decks where the prison is, where the American prisoners are, and he's excited to give them good news. And when he walks down, he sees them. Imagine his emotions when he sees just utter misery and despair. Men on their knees, handcuffed together in iron shackles. Ceiling is not tall enough to stand. These men knew that they were going to die. But he was excited to give them good news, because he was going to tell them, I know just 10 minutes ago you thought you were going to die. We've worked out a negotiation for your freedom. You're going to get to see your wife again. You're going to get to hold your kids again. You get to stand in front of your mother and give her a hug again. And their spirits raised just a little. And he was excited to give him that news. And he goes back above decks and he tells the admiral, Admiral, I've talked to my men and they're ready to go. And the admiral said, well, you see, we're still good to go. We have one problem, you see. He said, what's that? He said, well, after tonight, technically, it's all a wash anyway. Your men are going to be free. I don't understand. What do you mean they're going to be free? He said, well, you see those, do you see in the distance there, all those dots on the horizon? That's the British Royal Navy. They're on their way in. You see, your men were going to get to go home tonight one of two ways. One of two things are going to happen to get an end result. You see, the end result is, and this is where the song comes into play. You've all heard the national anthem, but do you understand what the words mean? He said, do you see over that rampart right there? You see that red, white, and blue flag that you guys seem to love so much? You see, all that has to happen is that flag just needs to touch the ground. It's just got to touch. You're the last remaining fort. You're the last stronghold. When that flag touches the ground, the war's over. All your men can go home. No one has to die. Now, there's two ways that can happen. You can send word ashore and tell them to bring the flag down. No bloodshed. We'll raise the British flag and go back to normal, and no one has to die. Or, remember those dots I just showed you on the horizon? Do you notice how they're getting bigger? It's the British Royal Navy, and they're on their way in. And they're going to knock that flag down and everything in sight around it. Your choice. Now, put yourself in Francis Scott Key's position. He had just gone down below decks. He had just talked to those prisoners, and he told them, you're going to get to go home. And now he's got to go tell them, well, you only get to go home when the flag touches the ground. Any normal person, I want you to put yourself in that position. Any normal person in their right mind would say, just bring it down. We're Americans. We'll fight next week. We'll regroup and we'll fight next month. But I already have a taste. I want to go hug my mother. I want to go hold my wife. Bring the flag down. Any normal person in their right mind would say that. That would be what comes out of your mouth. Well, Americans are not normal people. And your American veterans are not normal people. So So he was shocked and amazed when he went down below decks and told him that. And when he came back up, the admiral, the British admiral with the smirk on his face, is like, how'd that go? And the only thing that those veterans wanted to hear was that the flag was never going to touch the ground. So, what did America decide to do? We're not bringing the flag down. Bring your Navy. So sunset happens. And we're all waiting for this song to be developed. You could ask the question, is the flag still there? Sunset, the flag's still there. It's getting dark. The flag's still there. Those little dots are now full-size ships. The flag's still there. Begins to rain. It's completely dark. Boom! 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 All night. They're going to knock that flag down. We're going to destroy the fort. This will be our country again, is the British naval cry. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, your song is being written at this moment. You see, when I picture the words of the Star-Spangled Banner, I think it goes on in your heads and most of our heads. You hear the words, the rocket's red glare, and you picture a rocket going by and you can see the American flag waving in the air, right? Is that what you picture? That's what I always pictured. It was never expressed to me what the bombs bursting in air meant. And it's the bombs bursting in air That's what told the prisoners down below decks that the flag was still there. So imagine the craziness that has to go on in someone's head when you know they're bombing your country and the only words that are the only sounds that you want to hear is boom, boom. Because every time a bomb goes off, that means what? The flag's still there. So every time a bomb would go off, the grin on the prisoner's face would just get a little bit bigger. And that American smirk would just get a little bit bigger, saying, bring it! That flag will never fall. And the admiral looked at Francis Scott Key and said, I don't understand it. I hear your men down below decks. They can't even see what's going on and they're cheering. He said, Admiral, what you don't understand is the American veteran, the American warfighter, would rather live on his feet than die on his knees. And they will not give up. And when that sun rose the next morning, the ramparts stood a 32 by 40 foot flag that still sits in America today. Listen to the words of that song the next time you get a chance. History teacher, I challenge you to write that song down and show them the punctuation at the end of it. It's a question mark. The entire song is a conversation from your veterans to Francis Scott Key. They only had one question. Is the flag still there? Does the flag still wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? And due to men who fought in that battle, that flag is still there. And then they carried it on. And due to the men and women sitting in front of you today, the flag is still there. How do I tie that into this high school? I can tell you because, show of hands from my youth in the crowd who have ever heard the words, you're lazy. You have no work ethic. Teachers, adults, I want you to look around and see. Keep your hands up. I'm sorry, I don't mean to yell at you, but you have no work ethic. You are the destruction of our country. You can put your hands down. How many of you have heard those words? And I see, I have a 17-year-old kid. I might have said some of those to him, but he is lazy. You've heard those words. I am here to tell you, and I will take on anyone's challenge, they couldn't be more wrong. I can tell you that my dad said it about me, and then it started getting me to ask questions. I asked my grandfather. He told me my dad was the laziest piece of you that you wouldn't believe. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I asked my great-grandmother. She told me that about my grandfather. So it actually turns out that every generation thinks that the next generation is just going to ruin everything. I'm here to tell you, there's no better generation than the one I'm looking at right now. And if you feel like you owe anything to veterans, it's for you to succeed. You carve your own path because these men and women out here fought for you to be able to do it. That's really the only thing we asked, was that you absorb your freedom and you use your freedom. I am going to be old in a nursing home one day and I want Wi-Fi. So I need the smart people here to figure it out. So I need you to make sure I live to a ripe old age. You are our absolute future. I do what I do because of you. I have kids of my own, and I hope that you can carry on the legacy. I'm retiring in Indiana next year. I've lived all over the world. And I've never been to a state that is more patriotic and more welcoming. I'm excited to retire here. I'm excited to spend the rest of my life here and surrounded by Indianans and everything that you do for your veterans. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here today. Deer hunting or not, I was going to be here. If the school asked me to speak, I will always be there for the opportunity to speak to the youth. Thank you, veterans. Thank you, all of the teachers that are here. Say God bless America and God bless the Brown County Eagles. Thank you.
Next up, I would like to introduce our two sponsors of our very special Brown County High School History Club, Mrs. Alicia Adams and Mrs. Emily Llewellyn. And together they will update us on some activities of their club, and they also have a very special presentation to share. Please welcome Mrs. Adams and Mrs. Llewellyn.
Well, good morning. My name is Alicia Adams, and this is Mrs. Llewellyn again. Each year we have the great privilege to stand here and speak on behalf of History Club. One of the most rewarding activities the club sponsors is the Jeans for Vets campaign, where Brown County employees and community members donate money to the Nashville VFW. Over the last 3 years, History Club has raised over $3,000 for our local veterans, aiding in memorial expansions and scholarships. At the end of the ceremony, we hope you also will participate by donating to club members that will be located in the gym lobby. 100% of the funds that you donate stay right here in Brown County, supporting our veterans.
Our students love our partnership with our local veterans. This year, one of Brown County's veterans received incredible recognition on the state level. We'd like to bring the commander of the Brown County Honor Guard and member of the Chaplain Corps, Dave Pate, to tell you more about this extraordinary award.
Good morning. Today is a special day. Not only are we here to honor all of our veterans for their service to our beloved country, but on behalf of the Brown County Veterans Coalition, we're here to share with you that one of our own has been inducted into the Indiana Military Hall of Fame. The ceremony took place this past Friday, November 8, 2019, at the Garrison House, located on the grounds of Fort Benjamin Harrison on the northeast side of Indianapolis. This distinguished shrine stated objectively is to publicly emphasize the honor brought to our nation and the state by the sacrifice of Indiana military veterans and their families. Only 99 servicemen and women have been honored in this shrine, honored for their professionalism, bravery, courage, unselfishness, sense of duty, and commitment to others. Here are the names of the few of the inductees, Hoosier heroes who inspired others to be better leaders and better people. Colonel Donald W. Monroe. Among his many accomplishments, he received 6 Sagamore of the Wabash Awards. Major Charles B. Hall, member of the now famous Tuskegee Airmen. Colonel H. Weir Cook, fighter pilot, twice awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, our nation's second highest award for valor. Brigadier General Benjamin Harrison, our 23rd President of the United States. Jean Norbeck, a WASP, Women's Air Force Service pilots testing BT-13 bombers. She was the only civilian woman in World War II to receive a full military funeral. Navy Reserve Seaman 3rd Class Ernest Ernie Pyle, journalist, war correspondent, in addition to numerous news reporting and civic support awards. He was awarded the Purple Heart for his support to our nation. Last, Major General Roy Unbarger. Aside from his significant military accomplishments, he played a role in acquiring the Hoosier Youth Challenge Academy for at-risk youth. One of the 2019 inductees, an Army captain, having served his country in Vietnam where he was a helicopter pilot, has distinguished himself as an exceptional meritorious service by receiving the following medals and citations for service: Bronze Star, Air Medals, Basic through 13 with Oak Leaf clusters. Vietnam Campaign Medal with 60 device. Vietnam Service Medal. 2 Army Accommodation Medals and a Good Conduct Medal. He attended Hanover College and finished his coursework at Eastern Kentucky University. After his active military service, he continued to serve in the National Guards and in his community as a police officer, probation officer, as well as making a living on the road as a professional driver for numerous bus tours. This inductee is a strong advocate for veterans serving on vet-to-vet coordinator, a member of the VA Hospital Veterans Mental Health Advisory Council. He also served commander at the Vietnam Vets in our county. Disabled American Veterans, Chapter 2, a member of the American Huey 369, American Legion Post 13, and Veterans of the Foreign Post-War 6195, and has been a long member of the Brown County Honor Guard. This past summer, the Brown County Veterans Hall meeting room was named in his honor. The county commissioners made a proclamation declaring July 3rd, 2019, a day to which to honor him. He is a loving husband, loyal friend to our veterans and to so many others. It is my honor and privilege to introduce the 2019 Indiana Military Hall of Fame, Captain Henry Hank Marshall. Captain Marshall, please stand so we can honor one of our very own heroes. Thank you. Hank doesn't want to be called or recognized as a hero. He just wants veterans to be happy with their service to our nation. He has and can continue to inspire us with his love for others, his commitment to our mission, and even with his health issues that would have stopped most of us, Hank just keeps smiling and encouraging others. I'll leave you with these words from Paul in Philippians 4:8-9. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, what is a good repute, there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. The things you have learned and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, for your kind words. Brown County History Club would like to present Hank with this commemorative gift to honor his service to our nation. Thank you, Hank.
If tomorrow all the things were gone you'd worked for all your life, and you had to start again, with just your children and your wife. You thank your lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, in New York to LA, well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand to say.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Veterans, we hope that we communicated to you today how grateful we are for your service and how much we love you. A quotation was shared with me by one of you who asked me to consider using it in my closing remarks today, and I'm honored and happy to do that. The quotation is from President John F. Kennedy. He said, "A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, the men it remembers." And while we remember with deep respect those who knew the brutality and heartache of war, we are similarly reminded by you of ideals our nation holds precious, like honor, valor, and service above self. We are so grateful to the men and women joining us today, those who have passed and any other veterans who served our nation, so that we can experience the freedom that we are blessed to know today. I am thankful for Larry C. Banks. I am thankful for each of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is our great hope that this program will bless you all a fraction of the way in which you have blessed us. Thank you so much. And at this time, I would like to invite our Boy Scouts up to help us formally retire the colors. Veterans, when the music begins, our students will greet you and will dismiss you by rows to the auxiliary gym. We will have our picture taken first, and then we would like to invite you all to stay for lunch. We are almost dismissed. Students, you were phenomenal. Thank you so much for your attention today. Enjoy the rest of the day.